Disclaimer: the story is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or persons living or dead is purely coincidental. This narrative contains elements of suspense, horror, and supernatural fiction and is intended for mature audiences. Reader discretion is advised. We broke a rule and it found us part 1 of 8. It all started with a text message that felt too good to ignore. Cabin trip? This weekend. Just us. Let's make some memories. Ryan, Mia, Jordan, Lexi, and Tyler, 5 college friends who hadn't hung out together in nearly a year, decided it was time to reconnect. Life had pulled them in different directions, but nostalgia and the promise of freedom for a few days was enough to bring them back together. Jordan had access to his uncle's remote cabin up in the Oregon wilderness. No neighbors, no traffic, no distractions. Just forest, stars, and silence. When they arrived on Friday afternoon, the sun was already dipping behind the trees. The cabin stood at the edge of a thick pine forest, surrounded by nothing but moss, fallen leaves, and a whispering breeze. It was old but sturdy. Wooden planks, creaky porch, and a chimney that looked like it hadn't been used in years. The key was under the doormat, just like Jordan said. Inside, the place was surprisingly cozy. Antlers on the wall, dusty furniture, and a giant fireplace that made the living room feel warm even before they lit it. Mia found a cupboard full of canned food, and Lexi discovered a shelf with classic board games and VHS tapes. There was no cell signal, but they all agreed it was probably for the best. As they unpacked, Jordan pointed out an odd list of house rules, taped beside the fridge. The yellowing paper looked ancient, its corners curling and the handwriting smudged in places. The rules read, "Do not open the red door in the basement. Do not look into the mirror after midnight. Do not go into the woods alone. Do not speak your full name 3 times in a row. Do not stay past Sunday sundown." The group read it out loud, laughing as if it were part of some Halloween prank. Tyler, the skeptic, rolled his eyes. "What is this? Some Blair Witch Airbnb policy." Lexi snapped a photo of the list and posted it on her private story with the caption, "We're all gonna die, LOL." Later that evening, they made a bonfire outside. Beer flowed, music blasted from a Bluetooth speaker, and stories were shared like old times. For a moment, it was perfect. No assignments, no jobs, no deadlines. Just the sounds of laughter echoing through the trees. But as night fell and the wind grew colder, something shifted. The silence between the trees felt heavier, almost watchful. Mia swore she heard crunching leaves deeper in the woods. Ryan told her it was just an animal. "We're in the forest. What do you expect?" Back inside, while exploring the cabin, Lexi found the basement door painted a dull, faded red. She turned the knob. Locked. She called everyone over, grinning. "Guys, I found the red door. Rule number 1. What do you think is behind it? Chainsaws? Secret tunnels? Satan's pantry?" "No way we're opening that," Mia said quickly. "You've seen horror movies. That's how people die." But the mood had already shifted. The mystery of the door lingered in their minds, like a puzzle begging to be solved. Later, as they settled in for the night, the fireplace crackled and the wind howled softly outside. But the rules, they stayed on that wall, watching. None of them realized that one of the rules had already been broken. And something was listening. We broke a rule and it found us part 2 of 8. The next morning brought a golden mist that floated between the trees like lazy ghosts. It was colder than expected, but the group made the best of it, coffee brewing, bacon sizzling, and laughter bouncing through the cabin like it used to during dorm nights. For a few hours, it felt like a real vacation. But that red door in the basement kept pulling their attention like a magnet. Tyler, ever the instigator, brought it up again as they lounged on the porch. "Still thinking about that door," he said, twirling a pocket knife. "I say we crack it open tonight. Could be wine down there. Or weed. Or treasure." Mia frowned. "Or asbestos. Or rats. Or a reason it's locked." Jordan leaned forward. "My uncle's kind of a weirdo. He collects antiques and junk. Probably just doesn't want us breaking anything." Lexi smirked. "So let's not break anything. Just look." They all agreed to leave it alone for now. But boredom is a funny thing. With no phones, no Wi-Fi, and only so much interest in board games, curiosity crept in like smoke. By nightfall, the fire crackled again, and the group sat around it, passing a bottle of whiskey, playing truth or dare, and slowly circling back to the one unsolved mystery in the cabin. "Okay, new dare," Lexi said with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Tyler, I dare you to open the red door." He grinned. Thought you'd never ask. Jordan, emboldened by alcohol and laughter, remembered something. Actually, I think I saw a little key in the kitchen drawer. Brass one. It didn't take long for them to gather around the door. The basement smelled of mildew and old wood. A single bulb flickered above the stairwell, its light weak and sickly. The red door at the bottom was chipped and stained, but the key slid in like it had been waiting for them. The lock clicked. Moment of truth, Tyler said. He opened the door slowly. A long creak echoed down the basement. The room behind it was strange. Dust danced in the flashlight beams. The walls were lined with cracked shelves holding strange objects. Bottles filled with black liquid. Antique dolls missing eyes. Framed drawings of symbols none of them recognized. And in the middle of the room stood a large mirror, 7 feet tall, covered in a heavy black cloth. What the hell? Jordan whispered. Why would he keep this locked up? Mia hesitated at the threshold. Guys, this feels wrong. Let's just close it. But Lexi was already flipping through a journal left on a wooden pedestal. The leather was cracked, pages stained with what looked like dried ink, or something darker. She read aloud. To see what hides between the cracks of time, speak the phrase and let the veil fall. But beware, what sees you may choose not to forget. Okay, this is getting creepy, Mia muttered. Put that down. But Tyler was staring at the mirror. What veil? You think this is some kind of spiritual portal? Dude, it's just an antique, Jordan said, forcing a laugh. Probably bought it at a yard sale. Only one way to find out, Lexi said, and pulled the cloth off. The mirror groaned as if exhaling after years of silence. Its surface wasn't reflective in the usual way. It shimmered like a black lake rippling in moonlight. Their reflections appeared, but wrong. Slightly delayed. Slightly distorted. Like something else was copying them, but needed a second to catch up. Tyler, clearly buzzed, stepped in front of it and said, to see what hides between the cracks of time, jokingly adding, Hey demons, it's you boy. Everyone laughed. But the mirror didn't. Instead, the surface pulsed. Just once. And something blinked. Inside it. They all saw it, just a flicker. A shape. A pair of eyes. Then it was gone. Okay, nope. Mia shouted. We're done. Put the cloth back. But when they turned to leave, the basement bulb blew out with a sharp pop, plunging them into darkness. In the pitch black, someone whispered, I see you now. They screamed and bolted up the stairs. The door slammed shut behind them on its own, rattling the floorboards. They locked it, breathless and shaking. For a long time, no one spoke. They just stared at the door. The house was quiet again. But they had broken rule number 1. And whatever had been behind that mirror was no longer sleeping. We broke a rule and it found us, part 3 of 8. No one slept much that night. Every creak of the old cabin floor sent pulses of fear through the group. The red door remained locked, but that didn't stop the feeling that something had slipped past it, something unseen but watching. At 3 a.m., Tyler stood in the kitchen drinking water, staring out the window into the dark woods. He could swear he saw movement, shadows dancing between trees, but when he blinked, they were gone. By morning, they barely spoke. No one wanted to admit what they saw in the mirror. Not directly. They convinced themselves it was group paranoia fueled by alcohol and the creepy atmosphere. Jordan said it was probably a trick of light, a trick of their minds. But the journal Lexi had found wouldn't leave her alone. She read more of it while the others tried to enjoy a lazy breakfast. Its handwritten pages were a mix of Latin verses, cryptic warnings, and diagrams drawn in shaky pen. It mentioned the mirror again and again. Not as decoration, but as a veil between worlds. One entry was especially disturbing. The ritual should never be spoken without an offering. It is not a toy. If the veil is opened, it will respond. It always responds. Another, once seen, it remembers. Once called, it listens. Lexi didn't tell the others about those lines right away. Instead, she tucked the journal back under her hoodie and tried to act normal. That evening, the group tried to return to some sense of fun. They cooked pasta, played a card game, and watched a cheesy horror VHS tape they found on the cabin shelf. It helped a little. But after dark, Lexi brought up the journal again. You guys remember what I read last night? She asked. About that ritual? There's more. I think it's like a spell. You do it in front of the mirror. You say these words, make an offering, and it lets you see something hidden. Why would we ever want to do that again? Mia snapped. Because maybe it can undo what we did, Lexi suggested. Maybe if we follow it properly, we can close whatever we opened. Tyler leaned forward. Or maybe we can ask it questions. Get answers. Like a Ouija board, but stronger. Mia shook her head. This isn't a game. But curiosity won again. Later that night, the group descended the basement stairs with candles, the journal, and a thin sliver of nervous hope. The mirror waited for them, still uncovered. Its surface was dull now, like it had gone dormant, but no one felt safe near it. Lexi read the ritual instructions aloud. Light 5 candles. Place a drop of blood from the summoner on the mirror's surface. Speak the invocation of seeing while staring into your own eyes. Lexi pricked her finger with a pin. For all of us, she said, smearing a tiny dot of blood onto the mirror. She stared at her reflection and whispered, reveal what hides beneath the skin of time. Open the veil. Let truth be seen. The candles flickered violently. The mirror shimmered again, alive. Lexi gasped as her reflection blinked out of sync. Its mouth moved, but not with her own. Then it smiled, a slow, knowing curl of lips. The others watched in horror. Lexi? Jordan asked. Lexi didn't respond. Her eyes were wide, locked on the glass. Suddenly she stumbled back, hyperventilating. I saw something. It wasn't me. It was me, but older. And my face was torn open. Like something had clawed me. And it was smiling. Smiling like it liked it. Then the mirror rippled again. Each candle blew out one by one. Tyler stepped forward. Is that part of it? But the mirror now reflected something else. The basement behind them, but not as it was now. It looked decayed. Burned. And standing in the center was a figure, tall, black as ash, with no face and long, skeletal fingers. As they watched, the figure slowly turned its head toward them. It raised its hand and pressed it against the inside of the mirror. Tyler screamed and threw the cloth over the glass. Everything went still. The air was cold. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of water from the basement pipe. They ran upstairs again, locking the door. Lexi collapsed on the couch, crying. I think we invited it in, she whispered. No one argued. Because they all felt it. They weren't alone anymore. We broke a rule and it found us. Part 4 of 8. By morning, the group had stopped pretending everything was okay. The fireplace was cold even though it had been burning just hours ago. Jordan noticed frost on the inside of the living room windows. It hadn't snowed. It wasn't even below freezing last night. But the cabin felt like a meat locker. They didn't talk much during breakfast. Just sipped coffee with trembling hands and avoided looking at the basement door. But silence doesn't stop fear, it just gives it more space to grow. Lexi was the first to speak. Last night, when I saw it, it wasn't just a hallucination. I felt it. Like it was in the room with me. Mia nodded. Something touched my hair in the hallway. I thought it was one of you, but I turned around and no one was there. Tyler forced a laugh. You're both freaking yourselves out. But even he didn't believe his own words. His eyes kept darting to the shadows. He hadn't slept. None of them had. Jordan grabbed the journal again, flipping through pages like a man searching for an escape hatch. There's gotta be a reversal. A closing. A banishing spell or something. But the journal had no happy ending. The last page was a scrawl of panicked writing. It walks in the reflection now. It wears faces. It whispers names. I burned the mirror, but it still finds me. It knows what I did. It knows my name. That last part chilled them. Because last night, during the ritual, Lexi had spoken her full name. 3 times. One of the house rules. Another one broken. That afternoon, Ryan, who had been the quietest since they opened the door, went missing. They'd only noticed because his mug was still full of coffee, growing cold. His coat was gone, but his boots were still at the door. His phone sat on the table with no signal like the rest of theirs. They searched the cabin. Then the woods. Nothing. Just trees, mist, and an unnatural silence that seemed to press in on them like a closing fist. We have to leave, Mia said. We can't stay here another night. Jordan agreed. They packed in a rush and piled into his car. But the engine wouldn't start. Clicked once, then died. The battery had been fine yesterday. He checked the cables, no issue. Gas tank full. Nothing made sense. Then they heard it. A whisper. First, just a hiss in the wind. But it grew sharper, more deliberate. Lexi. Lexi froze. Who said that? She asked. No one answered. Because none of them had. Back inside the cabin, the power flickered again. Lights dimmed, then returned, then dimmed again. The TV turned on by itself. Static blasting from the screen. Through the white noise, a shape moved. Something tall. Something too thin to be human. Just for a second. Then the screen shattered. They were all standing there, breathless, trying to make sense of what they saw, when a sudden bang echoed from upstairs. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Mia screamed. There's no one up there. Jordan grabbed a fire poker and motioned for them to stay behind him. He crept up the stairs, every board groaning under his weight. The hallway was empty. The doors were closed, but the air felt heavier, thicker, like it was fighting him with every step. He opened the door to the guest room. Inside, Ryan was sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes open. Still. Ryan? Jordan whispered, but Ryan didn't respond. He blinked once, slowly, and turned toward him. His mouth curled into a grin too wide, too calm. Then he spoke, but the voice wasn't his. I like this face. Jordan slammed the door and ran back downstairs. Something's wrong with Ryan. That's not him anymore. Lexi was crying again. It's punishing us. We broke the rules and now it's copying us. Taking us. The mirror. The rules. The name. The red door. Each one they broke was another invitation. Another sacrifice. That night, none of them slept. Because now they weren't sure who in the house was still human. And outside the window, barely visible between the trees, something stood still, watching. Waiting. We broke a rule and it found us. Part 5 of 8, they barricaded the basement door that night. Just in case. Chairs, furniture, anything heavy they could find was stacked in front of it. The mirror had remained covered, but it didn't seem to matter anymore. Whatever was in it had gotten out. They agreed to keep watch in shifts. Tyler volunteered for first, flashlight in hand, sitting on the couch with his back to the wall. The others huddled upstairs, sleeping in short, broken intervals. At 3:12 a.m., Tyler blinked, just once. When he opened his eyes again, everything was quiet. The flashlight had turned off. The fire was out, and he was no longer in the living room. He stood alone in the woods. No coat, no shoes, barefoot in frost. Hello? He called, spinning in place. Trees everywhere. No light, no cabin in sight. A breath passed over his neck. Not wind, a breath. He turned slowly. Behind him stood Ryan, or what looked like Ryan. His face pale, eyes pitch black. Mouth hanging open too wide as if dislocated. You shouldn't have spoken, the thing whispered in Ryan's voice. Tyler screamed, and vanished. Back in the cabin, the others found the flashlight lying on the floor the next morning. Still warm. Still working. But no Tyler. His phone was still on the table. His bag untouched. Jacket hung up by the door. Jordan ran out into the trees calling his name. Nothing. Just frost. Just silence. Again. 2 people gone, Mia muttered. One by one. And now it's Tyler. It's picking us off. Lexi said nothing. Her eyes were dark-rimmed, haunted. She held the journal tightly to her chest, fingers trembling. There's something in here I didn't tell you before, she admitted. They stared at her. What do you mean? Jordan asked. Lexi opened the journal to a page near the middle. It had been written in a different handwriting, shaky, slanted, with words scratched out violently. If you name it, you bind it. But only for a time. Once it takes a body, the name fades. Then it's free again. What name? Mia asked, voice tight. I don't know, Lexi replied. But we need to stop thinking of it as some kind of spirit or ghost. I think it's a parasite, a mimic. It gets in through rituals, through attention, through mistakes. You mean, like us staring at it? Opening the door? Saying our names? Lexi nodded. Every mistake, it takes more. Jordan ran his hand through his hair. So what do we do now? Lexi's voice shook. We can't let it leave the cabin. Mia stared. You think it wants to leave? Yes, Lexi whispered. And it's using us to learn how. That afternoon, they tried to start the fire again, just for warmth, but every match went out instantly. Then they tried the car again. No response. Lexi caught her reflection in the cabin window, but it wasn't hers. It blinked when she didn't, and then it smiled. Just a twitch. She backed away, heart pounding. The mirror wasn't needed anymore. The whole house had become reflective. Windows, glass, screens, even puddles. Mia packed a bag and said she was going to hike out, car or not. There's a road 5 miles back. We walk it. Now. Lexi begged her to stay, but Mia refused. If we sit here waiting for it to kill us, we deserve it. Jordan hesitated. Let her go. If she gets help, she won't, Lexi said softly. Mia left at sunset. She took a flashlight and a knife and promised to come back with help. By midnight, they were waiting, listening to every crack of wood outside. Then they heard a knock on the door. 3 slow knocks. Lexi grabbed the journal. Don't answer. Jordan crept to the window. Mia stood outside, soaked in rain, smiling. It's me, she said. Let me in. I got turned around. I forgot something. But her voice was wrong. Too flat. No breath behind it. Jordan whispered, that's not her. The Mia thing outside tilted its head, still smiling. Lexi, it said softly. You called me. Then it vanished. Just blinked out. Lexi dropped to her knees, sobbing. I think the real Mia never made it out of the woods. Jordan sat against the wall, clutching the fire poker again. Then it's just us now. And outside, far beyond the windows, something moved in the dark. Waiting. Watching. Learning. We broke a rule and it found us. Part 6 of 8 by now. The cabin felt more like a prison than a shelter. The cold never left. The air felt thinner by the hour. Lexi and Jordan kept the fireplace going, not for warmth, but for light. It seemed like the only thing keeping the shadows from crawling in. The two of them were the last. At least, the last who were sure they were themselves. Jordan had started questioning even that. He caught Lexi staring at him for too long sometimes, like she wasn't entirely convinced of his identity. He couldn't blame her. He caught himself checking his reflection every chance he got, looking for differences, small, terrifying inconsistencies. A delayed blink. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. A twitch he didn't remember making. Can I trust you? Lexi asked that night. She held the journal in her lap, flashlight flickering beside her. Jordan hesitated. I was just about to ask you the same thing. They shared a bitter laugh. But the unease returned quickly. The silence always fed it. Lexi flipped through the journal one more time, fingers stopping on a stained page. Once it knows your face, it can wear it. Once it hears your voice, it can echo it. The longer it walks among you, the better it pretends. Jordan whispered, it's evolving. They both remembered the thing that looked like Mia, standing outside, soaked and smiling. The face was hers, but not the soul. Not the warmth. Just an empty mask. The thing that had worn Ryan had started to mimic his speech patterns. It even joked like him. Until it slipped. Until it said something Ryan never would have. Lexi shivered. Do you think it needs us alive? I think, Jordan said. It needs us long enough to finish the job. And maybe to take what's left of us. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. Then cut out completely. The fire sputtered. Went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then footsteps. Upstairs. Again. They didn't move. Didn't breathe. The steps came down. Slow. Measured. A shape passed the hallway just beyond the living room. Tall. Slender. Wrong. Then, hey guys. A voice called. It was Tyler. Lexi gasped. No, the Tyler thing stepped into view. Same face. Same voice. But something was off. Its eyes were too dark. Its mouth smiled without stopping. I was lost, it said calmly. But I found my way back. Jordan gripped the fire poker. What did we say about the mirror? First night. The Tyler thing didn't answer right away. Then it said, we weren't supposed to speak our names. Wrong answer. Jordan swung the poker. The thing dodged easily. Too easily. And it laughed. You're learning, it hissed. But too slow. It lunged. Jordan fell backward. The thing reached out, but not to attack. It touched Lexi's face. She screamed. And then it was gone. Just gone. As if the shadows had swallowed it. But Lexi was shaking violently. Whispering to herself. I saw inside its mind. Just for a second. When it touched me. Jordan knelt beside her. What did you see? A doorway, she whispered. Somewhere deeper than here. Older than the cabin. And it was on the other side. It doesn't belong in our world. But it's trying to break through. Through us. She nodded. Through memory. Through belief. Through reflection. They sat in silence again, the journal open between them. Jordan whispered, if we break the mirror, really break it, do you think it ends? Lexi looked unsure. I think that's what it wants us to think. It wants to be brought out. Destroying the mirror might be finishing the ritual. Jordan clenched his fists. So what do we do? Lexi's eyes darkened. We stop playing by its rules. Later that night, they painted over every mirror, every reflective surface, even the windows. Covered them in soot, blankets, tape. They burned the pages of the journal one by one in the sink. They didn't read them aloud. They didn't speak their names again. And they waited. But at 3 a.m. a soft knock came from the front door. A single voice called from outside. Lexi's. Except Lexi was sitting right there. Her face went pale. Jordan stood slowly. It's learning faster now, he said. It doesn't need faces. It just needs sound. Outside, the voice repeated, Jordan, let me in. I'm so cold. You promised. He turned away. And the fire, for the first time in days, stayed lit. We broke a rule and it found us. Part 7 of 8. The last rule they broke was opening the red door. And they were starting to understand why it had been locked. The red door had always been there, at the end of the upstairs hallway. Its paint faded, its surface blistered as if scorched by fire. No one had dared touch it, not until the night of the ritual. Lexi had reached for it without thinking, driven by curiosity and adrenaline. It had creaked open slowly, revealing only darkness inside. They didn't step in then. But now, with nearly everyone else gone and something pretending to be them stalking the woods, the red door was calling again. Lexi stood before it in silence while Jordan watched from the bottom of the stairs. It wants us to open it, she whispered. We already did, Jordan said, voice low. Maybe that's when it started. Lexi placed her hand on the doorknob. It was ice cold. Her fingers trembled. We can't keep hiding. This thing, it's hunting us from the inside out. If we wait, we're next. But if we go in, Jordan cut her off. If we go in, we might not come back. They stared at each other. And then Jordan nodded. Let's end it. Inside the red room, the air felt different. Heavier. Stagnant. Time didn't seem to move. The space was bare, no furniture, no windows. Just scorched walls and a floor covered in what looked like dried salt and ash. At the center sat an old vanity mirror, cracked, blackened, covered in dust. And behind it, carved into the wall in jagged script, were words that had clearly been scratched over and over by someone desperate, someone losing their mind. It sees you when you see it. Lexi felt her throat tighten. This is where it started, she whispered. Whoever lived here, they summoned it. Or maybe they were just the first to find it. Jordan moved closer to the mirror. It wasn't reflecting anything. Not the room. Not them. Just blackness. And then it blinked. Not a crack. Not a trick of the light. A human eye blinked back at him from inside the glass. He staggered back. Lexi gasped. The eye was followed by a hand pressing against the inside of the mirror. Then another. Fingers stretching the surface like thin rubber, straining to push through. Jordan grabbed the iron fireplace poker. We smash it. Lexi stopped him. Wait. She pulled something from her coat pocket, the last page of the journal, one she hadn't burned. It had a diagram, an ancient circle, symbols scrawled around the edge. A sealing sigil. If we do this right, we trap it. We send it back. Jordan looked at the mirror. The hands had stopped. The surface now rippled gently like black water. The thing inside was watching. Waiting. They drew the sigil on the floor in salt. Lexi whispered the lines from the page, each word making the walls tremble. The room grew colder. The mirror began to hum, a deep, vibrating sound like thunder far underground. The thing didn't like this. Suddenly the voice came again. But not from outside. From within the walls. From the mirror. From everywhere. Tyler's voice. Then Ryan's. Then Mia's. They cried. Screamed. Begged. It's me. Stop. Please help me. Lexi's hands shook. It's not them. It's only using their voices. But then came her own voice. Lexi. Don't do this. You'll trap us too. We're still in here. Jordan stared at her. Is that possible? Lexi hesitated. I don't know. But if it's lying, we let it win. The mirror cracked. Once. Then twice. Then something burst from it. Not a figure, not quite. Just a shape made of shadow, smoke, and eyes. Hundreds of eyes. All blinking out of sync. All staring into them. Jordan screamed. Lexi threw the salt. The circle flared. The thing reeled back, shrieking in a voice made of every voice it had stolen. You opened the door. It hissed. And now you are mine. But the circle held. The mirror rippled violently. And then silence. The thing collapsed into the mirror. The surface cracked one final time. And then shattered. Glass rained around them. The room went still. Outside, the sky had begun to lighten. The fog had lifted. The cabin seemed quieter. Normal, even. Jordan stood beside Lexi, staring at the shards of the mirror now scattered on the floor. Is it over? He asked. Lexi didn't answer right away. She stared at a single shard lying near her foot. In its surface, just for a split second, she saw herself blink. Twice. But she hadn't blinked. Not at all. We broke a rule and it found us. Final part. Morning arrived. Real morning, sunlight warming the porch, birds chirping in the trees, snow finally beginning to melt. The nightmare was supposed to be over. Lexi and Jordan packed up quietly. They didn't say much, not because there was nothing to say, but because everything they might say felt too dangerous. Even their own voices sounded strange now. Too loud. Too foreign. The mirror was gone. The red door, still scorched, stood open behind them, leading to nothing but a room full of dust and broken glass. The sigil had faded. The salt circle scattered. Jordan stood on the porch, staring out into the woods. We walk. No car. No phones. Just follow the road. Lexi nodded. We leave this place and we never come back. They crossed the frozen lawn, backpacks light, legs weak from days without sleep. As they moved past the tree line, the cabin slowly vanished behind them, first the roof, then the walls, then the last sliver of red from that cursed door. They didn't look back. It took hours to reach the nearest road. They walked without resting, without speaking, as if afraid the silence would answer. A truck passed by around noon, the first sign of life they'd seen in what felt like a lifetime. Jordan waved it down with shaking arms. The driver, a kindly older man with a gruff voice, took one look at their pale faces and didn't ask questions. Town's just 20 minutes, he said. You folks look like you've been through hell. Neither of them responded. They stayed in town for a few days, long enough to contact their families, shower, eat, and try to convince themselves it had all been real. The police searched the cabin. Or tried to. But when they returned to the location Lexi described, it wasn't there. No cabin. No red door. No clearing. Just trees. Endless, untouched forest. Lexi showed them photos on her phone. Jordan even produced a torn journal page he'd stuffed in his pocket. Still, no one could find it. It's like it was never there, the officer said. Lexi smiled weakly. That's because we were never meant to leave. A month passed. Then, too, Jordan tried going back to school. Lexi saw a therapist. Both tried writing it off as trauma, delusion, mass hysteria. But neither really believed that. And then the dreams started. Not nightmares, memories. Of the cabin. Of the mirror. Of things that never happened, but felt real. Jordan dreamed of standing in front of the mirror again, but this time it wasn't him in the reflection. It was something else. Something wearing his face. Lexi kept hearing voices whispering her name from dark corners of her apartment. She unplugged every mirror. Taped black cloth over the windows. But nothing helped. One night she saw it. In her reflection. Not her. But it smiled like her. And whispered, "You never left." Jordan came to see her the next day. He looked worse than ever. Bags under his eyes, hands shaking. "We made a mistake," he said. Lexi nodded. "We thought we trapped it. But it tricked us." He pulled something from his jacket. A shard of mirror. It hadn't broken with the rest. He'd found it in his pocket 2 days ago. Lexi stared at it. In the shard, her face reflected back. Except this reflection blinked too slowly. Too deliberately. "I think," she whispered. "It followed us out." Jordan placed the shard on the table carefully. "Or worse," he said. "I think we brought it with us." They stared in silence. The room grew colder. From the hallway, a creak. Footsteps. Then a soft voice, Jordan's voice, but Jordan wasn't speaking. "Lexi," it said. "You forgot to close the door." She turned to the hallway. Nothing there. Except a mirror hanging crooked on the wall. One she didn't remember putting up. In its reflection, a red door, slowly opening. Lexi gasped. Jordan grabbed the shard too late. The room rippled. The lights dimmed. And then from all around them, dozens of voices whispered in unison, "You broke the rule." And far away, deep in the woods where no road leads, a cabin waited. Inside it, 8 names scratched into a wall. And one red door. Still open. Still waiting. For the next ones to speak. 43.